Welcome to the third edition of Handheld Battle, where we're going to pit the Anbernic RG556 versus the Odin2 versus the Ally in a test of emulation of PlayStation 2 games. So, what game will we choose for this battle? Jak 3. Jak 3 is a rather hard to emulate PlayStation 2 game. It's a good test of what these handhelds are capable of, and we will see how the much cheaper RG556 fares with this game. Let's get to it. So we have Jak 3 loaded here. I'll pause it for a second. I have used the fast, unsafe emulator settings to try to get a little bit better frame rate here on the RG556. And as you'll see, this causes some issues, but trying to run with the default settings is just way too slow. So let's see, for the most part, the fast and unsafe settings. We're going to play a little bit of the introduction here and then load into the game. As one thing you can see almost immediately is that the speed up selections are causing some graphical glitches, and even then it's not running great. Definitely seeing a good bit of slowdown here. This, by the way, is that native PlayStation resolution. Emulator's really struggling here.
By order of the Grand Council of Haven City, for heinous acts and crimes against the people.
And I think that's enough of that. So you can see that the RG556 is really struggling with this introduction, despite trying to use native resolution and a lot of the default speed up options. We're only going to look at the first tutorial area here because it's enough to see how well this part of the game performs. Normally I like to do a little bit deeper dive, but even the first area is a good demonstration of what these handhelds are capable of doing. So you can kind of play this through this area, but the controls are a little laggy, I think, due to the underclocking we had to use. And you'll also see graphical glitches, such as these little things we're grabbing tend to fade in and out when they really shouldn't. I actually had to change the emulation settings a bit from the fast unsafe settings here because the timing on the jump, and it's still a little bit incorrect. You do a double jump up here to get up onto the platform, and it's just the double jump is just not working very well here on the RG556 with the speed up settings. And again, I think it has something to do with some of the underclocking, I guess, kind of messing with our timing here. Not really sure this is the best way to play Jack 3, but you can kind of have a go at it here. But you might notice the controls are not the best. It's a little jerky in the motion too. This should be a little bit smoother than we have it right now. Oops. Yeah, that wasn't good. Although I think that was more my fault than the RG556. Me just hitting the wrong button. Still, though, the double jump timing I've noticed is off compared to the other systems. Whoops. There we go. And we've at least collected all of the little tokens here. You know, some more, I think more graphical glitches here.
That's right. We bad. You haven't forgotten what I taught you, Jack.
Anyone can make a few measly jumps. Now let's see how you rate against the living. Readjust.
So you can certainly see the we're struggling a bit with this. Oh, come on. Oh, well, that's enough of this. So we can kind of get an idea of how the RG556 handles this game, and it's not really the best. I mean, you can attempt to play Jack 3 on the RG556, but you're probably going to want to look into a little bit more powerful handheld to really get a good experience. Have to make a lot of compromises just to get this game to even run with a somewhat acceptable frame rate. So let's take a look at how a little bit more expensive handheld will fare on this particular title. Let's look at the Odin2. So I've got Jack 3 loaded up on the Odin2, and for emulator settings here, I have this at 2x native resolution. I tried it at 3, but the system struggled a bit with 3x native resolution, particularly in the intro section that we're fixing to take a look at. But most everything else is default, although I did change for a little bit of a speed boost. I changed the hardware download mode to, let me check and make sure what I changed it to. So 2x native, and hardware download mode to disable readbacks, which is a common speed hack. So as you can see, without having to use the extreme hacking that we had to use on the RG556, turn the volume down a little bit, you can see that the game's running a lot faster. You'll also notice that there are some graphical glitches. If you look underneath the spaceship, you can see things that shouldn't be there. You still see a little bit of slowdown even at 2x, but I tried to avoid using speed hacks like the underclocking, because I think it messes with the timing in games like this. So As you can see, it actually runs fairly well, but not perfect. But let's get into some gameplay here. So you can see the intro certainly runs a lot better on the Odin 2. And remember, we are actually using 2x resolution, and we're not using all the speed hacks that we had to use on the RG556. So, good bit better experience here so far. Let's get into that same level that we were playing on the RG556. See how the Odin handles it. One thing you'll notice here is that motion is a lot smoother. So we're getting more or less the full 60 frames per second that we should, which means moving around is a bit easier. You can look around, it's not jerky. So the double jump is actually working a good bit better now. And I think, like I said, I think the underclock on the RG556 had something to do with that. Because I noticed it on the 556, but not the other handhelds where I didn't use underclocking. Notice you can still see some graphical glitches here. So it's playing at a much higher frame rate, but there's still some glitches here. When he jumped up in the air, you see his shadows messed up. Oh yeah, gotta break through the floor. The shadows not being right is annoying, but it's at least not completely game-breaking.
The candidates have won the challenge.
That's right. We bad. You haven't forgotten what I taught you, Jack.
Anyone can make a few measly jumps. Now let's see how you rate against the
So you can see this runs a lot smoother than the 556 is capable of. Let's get to the gameplay. There is actually a little bit of lag here with this lava. Oops. Oop. Now this should give you a good idea of the basic gameplay here. And how it performs. Oops. They knocked me into the lava. Oh well. So, this is the game on the Odin. Of course, the game doesn't run perfect on the Odin either, but it does feel a bit more enjoyable to play this game here on the Odin 2 than on the RG556. To be fair, the RG556 is much cheaper than the Odin 2, but sometimes you really do need the performance. So let's take a look at the Ally. Now, I've got 3 times native resolution here for 1080p, but other than that, the emulator settings here are pretty standard. Just basically the defaults upscale to 3x. I'm using the OpenGL render back in here. I've actually found that on the Ally, OpenGL seems to work the best most of the time, so we'll continue to go with that. And wanted to show you I'm using the 15 watt mode here, which is kind of intermediate performance and saves a little bit on battery life as opposed to using the 20 something watt mode. So we'll get back to the game here. So one thing you'll notice here is that some of the graphical glitches are pretty well gone. The issue with the shadows that the Odin 2 had, and the issue with the ground disappearing that the RG556 has are not here. The game is running smooth, although it did warn me that since I have this installed on a slower SD card that we may experience stutters, but we'll see. So if I wanted, I could copy this to the internal SSD, but I'm just running it off the SD card, even though it's going to fuss at me for doing it. But as you can see here, there aren't really any issues with running this intro. It's running at full frame rate. We're not having graphical glitches. I guess this is part of the advantage of having a more up-to-date emulator than we have on Android. But we've seen enough of the intro, so we'll see if we can get to the gameplay, see how it goes. So we'll look at the tutorial level here because that'll at least give us an idea of some of the performance. Have to be careful where I hold this handheld because it's so huge. Make sure it's on the camera. So since we're not using underclock, we don't have any issue with the double jump not working properly. We also don't have issues with any of these things disappearing when they shouldn't. So and at 3 times native resolution, the game looks really good. You watch, even though the controls work better out here, I'll still end up falling into the lava. This definitely is a nice looking game upscaled.
candidates have won the challenge.
That's right, we bad. You haven't forgotten what I taught you, Jack.
Anyone can make a few measly jumps. Now let's see how you rate against the living. Readjust the matter formers. Prepare the arena for full combat.
Prepare the arena for full combat.
I just said that.
I know, I was just...
All right, let's see how we do here. We seem to be getting less slowdown with this lava coming up than we saw in the Odin 2. Oops. All right. This is probably a good place to stop for now. So, what have we seen here? Looks like of course, Ally is definitely the king of running this game. I think I've seen a greater performance difference between the three handhelds on this game rather than either of the other two. I think on Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and Champions of Norath, the Odin and the Ally have pretty comparable performance for pretty comparable settings. This is actually the first game I think that I've had to turn the settings down on the Odin to get it to run, as opposed to running at just something like 3x. So the Ally definitely held its own here, maintaining 3x. And again, I think this is partly to do with the fact that the emulators are actually more up to date on the PC side of things. Maybe when Android starts to catch up a bit, we will see a little bit better performance from the Android handhelds, including the Odin 2 and maybe the RG556, although I think a game like this is probably asking more of the RG556 than it can give, given the chipset in it. Well, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you have a particular game you'd like to see in Handheld Battle, then leave a comment. I have a few ideas, but it'd be always interesting to hear about a game that I hadn't thought of. So until next time, enjoy your handhelds.